So I recently finished my first playthrough of the Resident Evil 4 Remake, and I wanted to make a quick video going over my experience playing it and my thoughts. Now, I would not say I am a die-hard fan of the Resident Evil franchise. I'm not someone who has played all the games and I did not grow up with them, so I don't really have that connection with them as a lot of other people do. However, I acknowledge how impactful and good these games are. And over the past few years I have played through quite a lot of them, including the original Resident Evil 4. Now, when it comes to remakes, I can safely say that this is a really damn good remake. I had a great time playing through this game, and I thoroughly enjoyed my first playthrough. I was a big fan of RE2 and 3's remake, and thought Capcom did a phenomenal job updating them for modern audiences. I did not think, however, that RE4 needed a remake. RE2 and 3 made sense. They were both in a fixed camera angle style, and they were older games that needed an update. So, making them play similar to RE4 with a third-person camera angle was a really smart decision that made the experience all the better. The original RE4 is iconic, influential, and above all, a really fucking good game. I played the original RE4 on the Xbox 360 port on my Xbox One a few years ago, and I could see why people would play it for hours with multiple playthroughs. I ended up getting all the achievements on it because I enjoyed it so much I wanted to 100% it. But it never struck me as a game that needed a remaster. Sure, you can update the graphics and a few gameplay tweaks, but overall, the gameplay is great today. So, that's when Capcom says, "Hold my beer," and proceeds to make one of the best remakes you could ask for. Much like the Dead Space remake, I adored playing through this faithful but also very different version of RE4. A few changes have been made and a few things have been left out. A few sections of the original have been changed, with the layout of some areas being completely overhauled. I was surprised to learn that the boss fight in the cage with that monster called U3 has been completely cut from the game. Not that I'm complaining, I actually dreaded that section in the original. Combat is probably the biggest change, as you can now move and aim, which isn't something you could do in the original. In the original, enemies would slowly attack you one at a time to compensate for your limited movement. Here though, enemies will attack in droves and can be quite relentless. I was playing on hardcore for my first playthrough, and it was not easy. I tried to be conservative with my ammo and healing items, but I had to use a lot in order to just stay alive. I feel like the game gives you the bare minimum to get through sections of it. Like, I wasn't flooded with resources, but I always had enough to get by. Some of the harder sections are when the enemies are just being thrown at you and you need to stay on your toes and be cautious, or you will get overrun and die very quickly. I found myself relying heavily on the Red 9 pistol. It was super accurate, I had ammo given to me all the time, and it was doing decent damage. Of course, as soon as I got to the Striker shotgun, I upgraded it fully immediately, as I remember the shotgun being the most OP weapon in the original. Here though, I found myself using it sparingly, only when I was getting overrun or when a tough enemy was getting up in my face. Also, the Stingray rifle proved to be one of the funnest and best weapons in my arsenal. Popping off enemies' heads with this thing at long range is so satisfying. The boss fights I found to be a great improvement over the original. I actually had a tough time taking down Ramon Salazar. I felt like he just ate on my bullets and would not die. I had to stay there for quite a while before I managed to finally slay him. I do kind of miss the crappy and campy dialogue and story, as is what made the original so fun. It was all done with a certain sense of self-awareness, which just made the game all the better. The characters have been updated and are actually a lot better here though. Leon is still the action hero with the cheesy one-liners. Luckily, the bingo line is still in the game, so there are no angry fans raving about that.
Where's everyone going? Bingo?
Ashley is no longer the naive little girl, but instead has to deal with genuine trauma and overcomes it. I do wish she wouldn't breathe so heavily every time she moves, however. That got pretty annoying. Louise is by far the best updated character. He's in the story a lot more and we understand his motivation and character much better. I do miss the ballistics line though. That's still funny, if a little creepy. In the original, he was in it very little, so when his death happened, it didn't feel impactful. Here, however, it was handled much better. I am glad to see the merchant has returned, as well as the shooting range, which was always really fun to play in the original. The process of buying and upgrading a new weapon so that it can become a deadly killing machine was what made the original so great, and the same can be said here. I loved that they kept the same Tetris block style inventory, which you have to manage carefully or you can end up running out of room to store items. Finding new treasures and inserting gemstones into them to make them more valuable is honestly such a great way to handle finding valuables in-game. You get rewarded for keeping a treasure longer by finding higher quality gems later in the game. There are dozens of treasures scattered everywhere, and it's always great whenever you find one. If you're new to Resident Evil, you'll probably find this one plays more into the action than the horror elements. There are a lot more enemies to fight. Even the opening segment of the game has a horde of enemies being thrown at you. That's not to say there aren't horror elements here. There are sections like the boss fight with Vudogo, which definitely build up the horror factor a lot more. Essentially, Capcom kept everything that was great in the first game and trimmed out very little. It's hard to improve upon something that's already near perfect, but Capcom managed to recreate it in this amazing remaster. There are a bunch of side quests and treasures to find. They are scattered all over the place and you do have to go out your way to find them all. However, if you want to skip all that and just play through until the end, the game can be completed in just a few hours. There's even an achievement to complete it in under 8 hours. That's something I do like about the RE games. They can be completed very quickly if you just ignore a lot of the side content. I must say that this has now set a new standard for how to do a successful remake. The Dead Space remake truly showed us how to do a great remake of an already great game, and the same can be said here. RE4 is not a game that needed a remake, but that doesn't mean I didn't want it. I loved my time playing this game. I'm probably going to end up playing through it again on the professional. I'll try to pick up as many achievements as I can along the way, as well as anything I missed in my first playthrough. I'm going to be giving RE4 Remake a 9 out of 10. An incredible remake. You don't even have to play the original to enjoy this. Maybe play the RE2 and 3 remake before jumping into this one, but I highly recommend you check it out. Thank you so much for watching this video. I would greatly appreciate it if you liked and commented on this video. If you want to watch more of my content, feel free to subscribe to my YouTube channel. If you want to support me even further, be sure to check out my Patreon page. Also, if you're interested, I am currently creating a webcomic which can be read on Webtoon and Tapas. Any support would be appreciated. Thank you once again for watching. See you next time.